All right, good evening. We have an urgent story that needs to be brought up that happened today on the J line here in Queens. An MTA worker was assaulted on the J train today. Literally was off duty, minding his own business, and he just got assaulted. And once again, NY1 not covering it. And I will mention, thank you to Channel 7 for actually leading off with it tonight at 5 o'clock because it's a big deal. And the other stations didn't even bring it up. They were all focused on the fire in Westbury, some of them. Others, I didn't even want to imagine what they let off with. But NY1 today at 5 o'clock let off with a story that was irrelevant from 2020. This incident literally happened today, and you're not going to send your reporter to the MTA press conference in Jamaica? Give me a break, NY1. Give me a break. I am so sick of them already. Just like News 12 Long Island. Look at the homepage. Look at the homepage. Nothing about the worker who was assaulted. Nothing. Nothing. And who really cares about Sheldon Silver? Right? He can go rot in jail for the rest of his life, or he should be. I'm sure his friend Nancy Chavelle's not happy. But that's not the point. Look at this. Nothing about it. Nothing in the transit section. Will people experience homelessness return in the subway overnight? I will bring this up that we are T minus almost 10 days away from 24/7 subway service coming back, and Cuomo has not deployed the New York State Police to come down here. What kind of governor ignores public safety? The state police should really be down here right now. All right, let's see. Anything else? Nothing in public safety about it. Nope. I checked public safety earlier. And then look at this. With reopenings, Weakling Dermot says, the city will return back to its safer return. Seriously, Dermot Shea is such a weakling. I literally can't stand him. I literally can't. At least get somebody who has a deeper voice next time. That's not the point. All right, before I lose track, let's get into what happened here. So if you didn't hear today, a subway conductor was slashed while minding his own business, running the J line today, and the MTA had a big press conference. I watched the press conference. Jonathan, my colleague from Passengers United, watched the press conference. I know Camper News was doing an update on the situation in Long Island. By the way, I will quickly mention condolences to everybody who was affected in Westbury and Garden City. But again, this is more urgent than what's going on in Long Island right now. So let's get into this. So again, thank you to Channel 7 for leading off with this tonight. As a train conductor remained unconscious Thursday afternoon after being slashed by a rider at the Cypress Hills station on the J line, MTA officials said the incident only bolstered their demand for more cops in the transit system. So, hypocrisy, right? Hypocrisy. Passengers United has been calling for public safety since our founding in 2018, and yet 3 years later, the MTA wants to follow Passengers United example. 3 years too late, But after major events involving emotionally disturbed people causing service disruptions yesterday, MTA officials were shocked when Mayor de Blasio suggested at his Thursday morning press briefing that the police presence has actually softened in recent months. President Sarah Feinberg at the press conference outside of Jamaica Hospital today said, first he seemed to suggest that he may have already pulled out the officers that were surged into the system. Following the tragic stabbings that had happened earlier this year, if that's the case, this is news to us. We did not know that those officers had been pulled out. New York City Transit and MTA deserve an explanation. And we know what the explanation is. Don't hide it, Sarah. We know what the explanation is. Last year, de Blasio cut the funding for the police. And now what's going to happen is more funding's getting cut this year. Right? So, I will mention there was no response today from the Curtis Sliwa campaign about this. So, Curtis is absent. Feinberg referred to the 500 police officers that the NYPD deployed, which was voted in December of 2019 by the MTA board to have them in the system, in the subway stations, and trains in February in response to the 4 stabbings targeting homeless people that killed 2. Mitch Schwartz, a spokesman for the mayor, said, "The MTA isn't just fear-mongering anymore, they're actually lying to New Yorkers about safety." Again, you're being fake news, de Blasio. The transit force is 1,000 strong, hundreds of additional officers in search of the areas that need it most. It's truly outrageous to lie to discourage people from using the subway, and it's time for the MTA and governor to stop publicly rooting against New York's economic recovery. Well, you know what Giuliani did when he got in, right? He increased transit police. So, again, de Blasio, you're the one being a hypocrite here. The conductor, who was named Gerald Sykes, in the surgical intensive care unit at Jamaica Hospital as of 3 p.m. on Thursday. He was still unconscious and unable to describe the circumstances that led to the attack, which happened just before midnight. Chairman Pat Floyd at the Jamaica press conference said, "We cannot stand here and accept additional attacks like the ones who have happened this morning to Mr. Sykes and others. It will take real action from the city, and the action needs to come as soon as possible." Well, again, Pat Floyd, why aren't you calling on your friend from Albany, Andrew Cuomo, and asking for the state police to come down here? You know? I mean, the NYPD can do so much right now. They really can, but we really need help from the state police. No, why can't we get state troopers in the subway system? And it was not the only violent incident that went down in the transit network. A dispute between two men in the Bronx resulted in one being stabbed with an ice pick. And then look at this. Tony Utano was at the event today. And listen, I feel bad for this woman. She is the aunt of the victim. I don't know what has happened to my nephew, but Mr. Mayor, I am saying to you, it is not safe for the transit workers or the public to ride, and I'm in complete agreement with her. Folks, I'm telling you this right now, if you can, and I know I'm being a hypocrite, if you can, try to take shorter trips on the subway. I know it's not going to help ridership numbers, but if you need to go at least 1 or 2 stops right now, that's what I would recommend until this nonsense gets solved. Alright? If you're in Manhattan, best thing you should do right now, if you're in Midtown, just walk. Alright? Because that's what I would be doing right now, and dealing with the 6th Avenue line right now, just to get uptown. Rather walk 20 minutes than deal with a dangerous subway system with mentally ill homeless people. Okay, Sykes has already undergone a number of surgeries to save his life since the attack. And then you have Tim Mitten. Oh, I don't even want to get into him. He's going to make me angry. Exactly, and for once, I'm in agreement with Sarah Feinberg. We need to have similar transit cop numbers than from the Giuliani era. They need to come back. Right? And I will mention in the description below, watch a video of cops. It's a really amazing video. 30 years ago, transit police would be everywhere where you needed them. Everywhere. And they had a lot of respect back then. But now they're just a laughingstock, the Transit Bureau. And especially how you have their wonderful comrade, Kathleen O'Reilly, saying, "Oh, you're making a perception. Passengers United, you're making a perception. Sarah Feinberg, you're making a perception." We're not making a perception. Alright? Even before Sarah Feinberg came to the MTA, our group has been calling out this nonsense since 2018, since our founding. Alright? This is all lies by the de Blasio administration to censor us. And not just them, but New York one's doing the same thing too. And now you have Utano who says, a mayor who says, "Oh, they're going overboard. There's really no problem." And I will mention tonight, Jim Dolan on Channel 7 is supposed to have a report saying, "Oh, the city might come back. It might come back this summer." How is New York City supposed to come back if you don't have a subway system that's safe? Alright? I really am glad I'm getting out of New York for 2 weeks next month. Because I don't know how much of this I can really take, folks. I really do need a vacation from this nonsense. And there's other news we gotta cover. Look at this story from Forest Hills. Literally, the Queens Courier and AM New York didn't cover this one. Another MTA worker threatened, this time close to home for me, here in Queens at the Forest Hill 71st Avenue station. The police are looking for a man who threatened an MTA worker with a knife inside the Forest Hill 71st Avenue station on April 30th. Oh, my bad. This didn't happen on April 30th. This was written on April 30th. So when did this happen? Happened on April 25th. Okay. Incident allegedly took place at 10:50 a.m. when the suspect approached the worker on the platform and pulled out a knife. It is unclear what led to the threat or what transpired shortly after the knife was displayed. The police released video footage of the suspect. So there you go. Brief article. Only gets a few brief sentences in the Forest Hills Post. So let's go to the press release from Charlton today, because, I helped write it too. So let's read this press release today. So here's the press release from Passengers United, so I'm going to read it here. You guys can see it on the screen. We at Passengers United are outraged that the City of New York and the Governor's Office continues to not address the crime and mental health situation underground with the urgency it requires. We need all our elected officials to provide funding for the social and security manpower that is needed to get the situation on the subway under control. We are desperately concerned that once the homeless shelter hotels close, more homeless will live on the subways. Charlton D'Souza was quoted saying in the press release, Passengers United warns commuters to ride the subway at your own risk overnight because they are not safe. Our subway system is in crisis. We need our elected officials to step up and address the deaths in the subway. And Charlton's completely correct, and I've said this with him numerous times. It's going to be a very dangerous situation once the overnight service resumes on May 17th. Passengers United warns commuters to ride the subway at your own risk overnight. Good quote right there. Here are the facts. There are hundreds of homeless individuals last year and this year who lead to their deaths overnight by jumping in front of subway trains. Okay, hang on. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. Right, and we know about the Garrett Global ones. And we know about the hate crimes against the Asian passengers. And not to mention the woman who was assaulted at 14th Street the other day. So you get the idea from what Charlton said. So... And then we have a couple more stories that New York 1 didn't cover today. Armed thieves sought for 2 gunpoint robberies in Central Park. The NYPD is looking for a crook who robbed 2 people at gunpoint in Central Park in the past week. According to police, at 8:25 a.m. on April 30th, a 55-year-old man was walking into Central Park at the 72nd Street and Central Park West entrance when he saw an unknown man sitting on the ground at the park entrance holding a small sign depicting bike for sale $75. The unknown man asked the victim if he wanted to buy the bike, to which the victim said no. By the way, Channel 4 covered this today. I'll just bring that up. The suspect then asked the victim for $5, which the victim declined again and began to walk further into the park. He sat down on the bench at the 72nd Street 5th Avenue exit where he saw the suspect had followed him. It was now standing in front of him. The crook then pulled out a black semi-automatic pistol and demanded money from the victim. Fearing for his life, the victim complied and handed over $1,000. The suspect then fled on the scene on a black bicycle northeast toward the Conservancy Pond. Then, this past Tuesday, May 4th at 3:55 p.m., a 67-year-old woman was walking westbound on the west path near Swan Lake inside of Central Park, where she was approached by the suspect who was riding a black bicycle. The suspect stopped her, pulled out a firearm, and said, "I need to take your purse." The victim asked if she could keep her phone, to which the suspect said no. Fearing for her safety, the victim handed over her purse, which contained 2 credit cards, an iPhone X, eye medication, and approximately $200 worth of cash. The thief then fled the scene on a bike northeast on the west path towards 5th Avenue. Police were thankfully able to recover the victim's cell phone near the scene using the Find My iPhone app. No injuries were reported in any of the incidents. So, there you go, Central Park becoming unsafe. How is this supposed to encourage the tourists to come back? This is not supposed to encourage the tourists to come back. You know? This gives a bad perception of New York City. You realize that. And then lastly, this didn't get covered only by AM New York. Bronx man found shot to death outside of a neighborhood lounge. So, New York One could cover a story about Mosholu Parkway, and they can briefly cover the fire that happened earlier this week in the Bronx, but they're not going to cover this. Cops are investigating a shooting that left one man dead in the Bronx on Wednesday night. Authorities say at 9:50 p.m. on May 5th, the NYPD responded to a 911 call regarding a man shot in front of the RMM Lounge at 658 Dawson Street. Upon their arrival, officers found 40-year-old Robert Smith of East 226th Street at the scene with gunshot wounds to his head and back. The victim was rushed to EMS to New York Health and Hospitals Lincoln, where he was pronounced dead. At this time, it is not clear what the motive behind the shooting was. There's an ongoing investigation, and there are no arrests made in this incident. So, there you go. Homicide in the Bronx. New York One covers it? No. Because we're Spectrum. We don't want to cover it. So, folks, that's going to wrap up this video. And again, I had to come back with another video because, again, thank you to them covering the NYPD involved shooting on the West Side Highway. But New York One had an obligation today to cover this story. Alright? When the MTA holds a major press conference regarding subway safety, you don't send out any of your reporters. I mean, that's a joke. That they couldn't get a reporter out to Jamaica today. I mean, give me a break, New York One. Shame on you. And I'm going to keep saying this. They are supposed to cover all of New York City, all of the 5 boroughs, which includes Queens. And I know this incident happened in Brooklyn today, but New York One is available on Optimum as well. Channel 8 in the Bronx and Brooklyn. I'm going to keep talking about the corruption at New York One. Just like how Pine Power Live for his viewers in Long Island, he's going to continue to expose News 12 Long Island. And again, for any of my Long Island viewers, you shouldn't get treated the way you are in Long Island. We have a fight here in New York City as well. So, if you notice any of this too, make videos. Speak out against this. The more people that do that, the more that the media might change for us. Thank you all for watching.